Hello! Only one chapter today, and that would be Snape's worst memory. The chapter in which we realize that, God, the Marauders were dicks. And that's sort of the set of big topics that we really need to consider. And that is making judgments of our perspective on things and on our own choices and the choices of others. That is to say that before this chapter, Harry had an ideal image of his parents in his head. Because, of course, he never got to know them. And thus he never got to understand them as flawed people. Which carries on the fact that, for the most part, a lot of other people are not going to tear down that image for somebody like Harry, who is an orphan. They're not liable to stand there and say, actually, they were flawed people and they made mistakes. Other people are likely to idealize his parents to him so that he can keep the positive image in his head simply because they aren't there anymore. So why come to terms with the fact that in some ways they were terrible people if that doesn't matter anymore because they're dead? We, of course, have one person who has done this, particularly with James, and that is Snape. But the way Snape acts, it more derives him as a person than James. Because Snape isn't a good person who then has an opinion that provides a more honest picture, we are in fact seeing him as just a bad and mean and bullying person. So we have this ideal image of someone like James on the one hand, and this negative image of somebody like Snape on the other hand, and we're suddenly running into this point where our images of both these people are colliding, and we're seeing that they are in fact mixed. We're not getting an ideal image of Snape, because in this memory of him, he does make a couple major mistakes. For example, he goes after James with a spell that I think we can safely assume is the spell that Harry ends up using on Draco. Separum Sordium. I'm never going to be able to pronounce it properly. That cutting spell that is going to really show Harry that he needs to be careful about his choices. So we actually have, in this schoolyard fight, Snape responding by stepping it up. This isn't hitting them with a stunning spell or washing their own mouths out with soap. This is him aiming to seriously harm somebody. We also get, of course, his rejection of Lily in one of the worst ways possible with this insult. That basically says, I'm better than you are. So we can't say we suddenly have this ideal image of Snape, but we now have an image of Snape that is layered. It is not just, oh, he's a mean, bullying git. No, there's layers. There is some abuse under that has led him to this point. So we can at least understand that even if we can't forgive him for becoming such a bully in the future. And in truth, I can't. Because, again, this is a man who is bullying children. This is not a child bullying another child. It's not a man bullying another man. This is somebody who has a power imbalance and who is using it, despite the fact that he has suffered this imbalance before. In the same way, we now get a very flawed image, but a more realistic image of James Potter. That is, he is not this great ideal person who is the Quidditch player and fantastic at school and my mother loved him constantly. No, this is a flawed person who is a bully, who is conceited, who in a lot of ways probably should have just taken Lily's no for a no, instead of just constantly badgering her, and also notably basically trying to blackmail her into dating him. So we have suddenly a much layered picture of both of these people, and they're not ideal images. They're not perfect, they're not good. In fact, both of them are actually very, very flawed. But we need to then adjust our perspective of these characters. We cannot simply say that Snape is mean because he's mean. There is more to it. Nor can Harry at this point in time say that my father was not big-headed and bullying. He's now got proof that James in fact was. So he has to sort of take it at that face value. And this becomes a turning point, of course, for Harry and his association to Snape. Simply because he is now aware his perspective of both Snape and James has changed. His father he can't idealize anymore, Snape he can't write off completely. There has to be a compromise. But the fact is that Snape is not allowing for this either. He is making the assumption, without any proof, that Harry is just as conceited as his father was, and that he's in fact enjoying this. But Harry's gone through bullying like this before, and being singled out, and being by himself, and being derided by a group of people, and he doesn't like it. So in fact, he looks at people like James and Sirius and says, nah, it's not even just about bullying, it's about literally ripping a person's life apart, and I can't look you in the eye anymore because of this. So the fact that Snape isn't willing to let Harry explain that, because in fact I'm pretty sure Harry would offer an apology in this moment if Snape would give him the chance to do so. But Snape, of course, it is an invasion of privacy, and we do know at this point in time that he dislikes Harry so much that he's not going to be able to differentiate. So we get something like a temper tantrum immediately. It's not a very cool, calm, you have stepped over your boundaries, you've invaded my privacy, you will have detention with this person, and this many losses of points. No, we are literally seeing Snape screaming and throwing things. So while our perspective of him has changed, Rowling's also providing for the fact that, yeah, but he's still flawed as a person, and being bullied as a child does not let us look at him and say, all his actions are fine. Because we can't. He's not making good choices, even with our perspective of him changing. And with that said, that becomes then our other consideration that these characters have to keep in mind. We have to change and judge our perspectives of people, but we also have to change and judge our choices. And Harry starts to get this sort of earlier before we even get to Snape's worst memory, with his very intelligent choice of not to drink the tea that Umbridge has given him. He very intelligently looks at that, and with a flashback to Moody, he's just like, nope, nope, this is incorrect. And it is, in fact, because he's thinking about Moody. His own actions would simply be to just take it at face value and drink the tea. But he is judging his actions, and he judges that action as stupid. Correctly so. In fact, he starts to try and judge his actions about looking at into Snape's memories, and he starts to judge those actions as equally stupid. But then we run into the normal problem, which is judging our actions is not easy when you are very angry and upset and humiliated, which is exactly what Harry recognizes with his anger at Cho, the humiliation in front of Draco Malfoy. He just goes for it. He He makes that choice. And that's sort of the interesting thing is when you're judging your perspectives of people and their choices, it's a lot easier to judge the choices of every other person than it is to judge your own choices. And you really need to be careful about that, because you could judge somebody else's choice as being very wrong and then make the exact same choice yourself. And you're going to say, I had my reasons. Yeah, well, they probably had their reasons too. And some choices, even if you have the correct reasons, still might not be okay. We have that issue with Cho's friend, and Cho saying Hermione should have told us that the paper was cursed. That was a choice Hermione made. This is a choice that Moretta has made. Cho is making her choice here to stick with her friend over the DA. Harry's choice to look into Snape's memories. Snape's choice to freak the frick out. Friend George's choice to literally walk away at this point in time after causing some serious chaos, in which we do have them confirm the fact that they have been making these choices before. They do misbehave, but they have always had a personal line. And the fact that they're now, the choice is, moving forward, to overstep that line is very interesting. Yet somehow, with it so far, it's not harming people. It's certainly causing some chaos, but we're not hearing them setting off the fireworks so that they blow people up. We do have Montag getting shoved into a vanishing cabinet. So we are seeing some possibly frightening choices from Fred and George, but the fact that they're then admitting that they're going to walk away, that is a key choice for them. Umbridge's choice to try and slip a potion to Harry, Harry's choice not to drink it, all of the professor's choices to let the fireworks go and make Umbridge clean up the mess that she has effectively created. These are all choices that people are making. And that's the thing, is even in reading we can make some judgment calls about these choices, whether certain characters are right or wrong, but we need to keep in mind that we have to then make those judgment calls with ourselves. And we can't simply say, well, I had my reasons. You have to look and recognize that these characters have their reasons as well. Same with in real life. Other people are going to make choices, and they have their reasons too. Does that make the choice right or wrong, or the reasons right or wrong? That's going to be different in every case. But you have to judge yourself. Okay, I have my reasons. Okay, next question. Are those reasons worth the choice that you are making? If you are going to make a terrible choice, are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing, or the reasons you have just an excuse to do this thing? These are the hard questions we have to ask ourselves. And Harry's got to start asking himself. And if we possibly can, have just everybody ask themselves these things. It'd be nice if Snape would start asking himself these things and make some honest-to-God recognition that maybe his reasons don't apply to Harry himself. Maybe his reasons apply to Harry's father and Sirius Black, but they do not apply to Harry himself, and thus his actions towards Harry and his choices towards Harry, not as easy to write off as he would probably like to think. Same with Umbridge. Same with our future actions to Umbridge. We really need to make these judgment calls, and it's going to be really hard to do so. So I think in moments where judgment calls are being made and we are changing our perspective on ideal images of people or choices, I think we need to really focus on the fact that we can make these changes. And really point out and congratulate a character when they do think through something and say, you know what, I was wrong. It just, that's what Harry's doing. And it would be nice if some other people would respond to that. But that's the hint. Maybe this is something that it's easier for children to do, and teenagers, and not something that adults easily have access to. I think this is a moment where children, are more intelligent than adults. Okay, well, a lot of people will write this series off as children's literature, so I think that is a hint that, no matter what your age is, you can learn a lot from this series. I really appreciate that. I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you do too. See you next time.